First time on YouTube. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Taranaki te manga, ko Pātea te awa, ko Dent toko whānau ingoa, ko Taranaki wā kāinga, ko Erin Maloney aho, ko ka whakahari mātua o Tiny Nation, no reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome Maria. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our virtual audience for being here via YouTube. We're really excited tonight to bring Maria Robin, one of our Tiny Nation partners, to you all to share a little bit more about bicultural practice and what it looks like and feels like when it's done in an authentic and meaningful way. And this is something that we've been prepping for right since the very beginning of Tiny Nation. So to have it come full circle now is pretty exciting, and to have it come to us just prior to our marae visits in all regions over the next 2 months is very timely too. So we're really excited to be here and to have Maria. And I went to a pulpiti 2 weeks ago now to I guess pass over an ex-colleague to a new role. And for me it was really powerful. Because it was the first pulpiti that I've been kind of immediately involved in, and to hear the call, the karanga coming in, and to actually be a part of that going in, and the welcome and all of the, I guess, blessing and aspiration. He talked about my ex-colleague being a matariki koha, and the idea of a gift to come to them in the new year. And it just kind of gave me a renewed passion for getting to know more about biculturalism in a really meaningful way, because it does feel so powerful when you're amongst that culture, and when you can be a part of it, because it is such a beautiful way of being. So we look forward to hearing more from Maria, who comes to us from a very authentic place herself in terms of her own learning journey. And that's one of the things that really spoke to us when we first met her and brought her on as a partner for Tiny Nation, was her own personal journey, and how she came to know and love Te Reo and Tikanga Māori, and it become such an integral part of your life. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Maria.
Kia ora. Thank you for the welcome. And we're just putting a mic on. Okay. Now, traditionally, we begin with karakia before we go anywhere else. Whoops, I'm just trying to make sure I'm in the screen. And there will be a printout. This is a very old tune, Kumbaya, and we've got a very simple words, and we'll just speak them through first as a karakia, and then we'll sing them. So I'm sorry they're not very visible to the people watching online, but just to assist us here. So we've got some voice. So we begin, e te atua, aroha mai, aroha mai. And that simply means, oh God, shower us with love. And we repeat that 3 times to the melody of Kumbaya. And then we have ake, ake, tonu e. Ake, ake, tonu e, which means forever and ever. So this is a blessing for eternity. The second verse, e te atua, mana ki mai. 3 times again, ake, ake, tonu e. Oh God, bless us forever and ever. And then the third verse says, e te atua, awhina mai, ake, ake, tonu e. Oh God, help us forever and ever. Okay, and let's see if we can put that to the melody of Kumbaya. Toru wha. E te atua, aroha mai, aroha mai. E te atua, aroha mai, aroha mai. E te atua, aroha mai, aroha mai. Ake, ake. Ake, ake, tonu e. Second verse. E te atua, mana ki mai, mana ki mai. e te atua. E te atua, mana ki mai. Mana ki mai, e te atua. E te atua, mana ki mai. Mana ki mai. Ake ake. Ake ake tonu e. Third verse, e te atua. E te atua, awhina mai. Awhina mai, e te atua. E te atua, awhina mai. Awhina mai, e te atua. E te atua, awhina mai. Awhina mai, ake ake. Ake ake tonu e. Ake ake. Ake ake tonu e. Thank you. And that's just our opening. That's very traditional to begin a meeting, always with a himene, with a blessing. Not always a Christian one, not always, but that's my personal background, my personal choice. So, and I just thought, kumbaya is one that we know well. Okay, so I'm calling my presentation Te Reo Māori he taonga mō tātou katoa. We're discovering our world through the medium of Te Reo Māori, in context, in Aotearoa. And a little bit about me. Erin's already mentioned that I have a huge passion for Te Reo Māori, which was birthed out of my primary school years, actually, when I had nuns, Catholic nuns come from St. Joseph's, Māori Girls' College, young women, and just birthed that passion for kawahaka, actually. They were teaching us kawahaka, teaching us te reo. And it went on through high school, and I followed up with language classes, but only weekly, which wasn't very helpful until I had 3 babies and I was invited into kohanga reo out at Omahu, or actually Waiahiki. And that really got me on my journey. So I was able to grow with my babies in Te Reo and Tikanga Māori on the marae, in Waiahiki marae originally, and then Omahu, over many years. And just a blessing, just a privilege to be invited. And as a tauiwi, as a European, I have no Māori blood myself, but my husband did. So that gave us the pathway in, I guess. And it's just something that I'd love to share more than I am at present. I just feel a grief that I was working in Te Kohanga Reo for a time. Now I work in mainstream, and I'm just so grateful to have this opportunity to share. So when I have my pepeha to share, ko Heemskirk, the waka, that's Abel Tasman's waka from my Dutch ancestry. Ko ngā ruahine, te pai maunga, our mountains are the ruahine maunga. Ko Manawatu, te awa, the river that flows behind my parents' farm is the Manawatu. Ko Tiratu, te papakainga, that's our locality. We don't actually have a marae on our locality. Ko Ngāti Tātimana is my iwi, the Dutch iwi. And ko Maria Robin Waier, tōku ingoa, Waier being my Dutch name. Okay, and so tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā kātou katoa. Okay, and there'll be a bit more about that in the handouts. Okay, so let's talk about pepeha, because both Erin and I have introduced ourselves through pepeha. And pepeha is very important in Te Ao Māori. We're talking about place-based learning, about knowing how we are placed, how we are positioned in context in our environment. My context, I also feel very connected to my Dutch ancestry, so that's why I incorporate that. From Nederland, my father came as an assisted immigrant, and then we grew up in that area by the Ruahine Maunga. So I'm connected. I feel that's the fullness of my pepeha, who I am, connecting me to my past, my ancestry, and my current situation. And for Māori, especially for a little child coming into our centres, for us to recognise that there's not only this little child, but behind this child are the parents, the grandparents. There's this huge ancestry, genealogy, history that's come. And for many, they can trace their ancestry right back to the very beginning, to the beginning of creation. I know in Omahu, in Kohupātiki, we were learning a whakapapa that comes from Io, from the very beginning, from the time of the darkness, before creation. There's a whakapapa that you learn as a chant that brings you all the way back down to the current generations. And that's valued and that's treasured. You know, that's such a taonga to own a whakapapa, a genealogy like that. So pepeha is our way in. And in our centres, we can just have a very, very simple pepeha just to locate our centres. So here's an example. Ko Waite Maunga. So the maunga, obviously, the mountain, the nearest mountain, is the most visible aspect of our environment that we can locate to. So some people might say that Te Mata o Rongokako, Te Mata is the maunga, that's the nearest mountain. For some people, it might be a place like Puketapu. But in this region, the highest mountain is Kahuranaki. So if you want to, if you would say out of Hawke's Bay and you wanted people to locate you, you would say ko Kahuranaki te maunga. But that's okay. You may choose, because your centre is closer to Te Mata, to use Te Mata as your maunga, which would be recognised locally. That would be a place that would be recognised. Then the awa, well, we are blessed with 4, aren't we? Throughout our region, from the Esk to the Taikuri, to the Ngaruroro, to the Tukituki. So just look at where your centre is situated. For Taranaki people, of course, you have amazing whakapapa over there, pepeha, to connect into. But just talking about our Heretaunga region here, just connecting your centre, just thinking, where are we nearest? So at the moment, our nearest river would probably be the Ngaruroro on this side. If you're on the Havelock side more, it would be Tukituki, ko Tukituki te awa. So just selecting where you feel most connected to. Then ko Waite waka. Well, for this region, generically, our waka is Tākitimu. And Tākitimu was a very, very special waka, in that it contained only holy men and only holy men. That was a very specific waka that came. So, it plays a huge part in genealogy, because there were festivals about the waka Tākitimu at one stage, and Tākitimu came through all the islands, from Hawaii probably in the beginning, through Samoa, through Fiji, through all the nations, and was often renamed and recommissioned in its journey over many generations before it came to New Zealand. So it has a huge history. So ko Tākitimu te waka, and ko Waite iwi, ko Ngāti Kahungunu te iwi, in this region. The Ngāti Kahungunu overarches all the smaller iwi that also were actually here preceding the arrival of Kahungunu. So some people would say, no, actually, my pepeha is more specific. But as a generic one for our centres, we would use Ngāti Kahungunu as the overarching iwi. So there's just 4 little simple things which you could create a pepeha on the wall in your centre, or in your home rather. I'm centre-based, I'm thinking centre. It's ko Waite maunga, to locate to a maunga, locate to a river, locate to the waka, that's generic for this region, and to an iwi. And that gives you a location. If you were to share that with people from another region, as we would share with Taranaki would realise, okay, this is a Hastings or Heretaunga-based pepeha. So that locates us in this region. Now, if we want to be more specific beyond that, and for children of Māori ancestry, of course, they would start to talk about their marae, their hapu, which is a more family-based group within the larger iwi. There would be other markers that they would use to be more specific. And then little children often love to refer also to their most recent ancestry, to maybe their grandparents, their parents, and maybe siblings. If children themselves were being using pepeha. And that's something that we always would encourage in kohanga reo, that children would be able to stand up and greet others and share their pepeha. So that's not uncommon for little preschoolers to be able to do that. They're quite capable to be able to do that. Yes, your children do that. It's if it's a requirement, if it's part of the general daily protocols, yeah, it's very normal. And if you have your centre-based one, the child doesn't need to prepare their own, but you could use your centre, your home-based one. Create your own in your locality. And it's just a very powerful thing. It's beautiful. Every time Erin stands and gives her pepeha, it's very powerful. And it just locates us immediately to where you're from. It just makes that connection. Very simply, very succinctly. And it honours a protocol that's very Māori. So that's pepeha. Now, after pepeha, so
And everyone will have the templates, won't they, Maria, so that they can create their own?
Yes, so I've just I've made a little template that will be online, just that you can fill out. But you select which parts you feel most comfortable with, and then when we were talking about how do we practically, simply honour the treaty, in a bicultural way, and we talked about walking out our pepeha. So that means not just learning it off by rote and perhaps using visual images of places, but actually going there. If you locate to the maunga, go up there. Even if you just go as far as the redwoods, take your little ones up so they get that impression of going up the mountain, and they see the big forest, even though it's an exotic forest, but they're getting an idea a mountain is significant. They can look from the backyard perhaps and see it above them in the region. So take them to the mountain, and if you have an opportunity, take them to the river. We were talking about possibly taking children to Karitūwhenua stream, which flows down off the mountain into the river. So it's a beautiful, safe, enclosed environment with a pathway running through a stream. So it's a small amount of water. That's a wonderful thing to do for the children, to have a visual, to connect to actually lock onto the whole idea of pepeha. And I mean, waka, we've got waka around us. There was a time that the waka taua was in the Clive River, and there were opportunities around Waitangi Day and things to actually get on board, even with little ones, with vests on. They would sit in between the adults and be on the water on a waka of sorts. That's no longer available. The gentleman who owned that operation is not running that at the moment, but we have our wonderful waka haurua that's over parked generally by the Blue Waters over on West Quay in Ahuriri, and it's alongside the fishing boats there. It has its own spot, and at the moment it's not out ocean sailing, I guess possibly because of COVID, but we took our centre at one stage on board. We just contacted, there's a trust, Te Reo and Māori is the name of our waka haurua, and there's a trust online and you can connect with them, and they love to share the whole experience of waka. You can't take little ones under 8 out on the water, they're too small, but you can take them on board and just look, and look in the holds and imagine people sleeping down in the 2 hulls of it's a double hull waka, it's just amazing, and hear the stories. And there's a fabulous documentary that was made about the circumnavigation of the whole Pacific Rim. That was why those waka were created. I mean, there's all that kind of history that's right here, right now in this region and in other regions as well. There's waka ama, there are other forms of waka around, so that children understand what is waka, and, the whole thing of rowing, hoia te waka, get some of the old songs, e tamama, and teaching them those songs that connect them again to waka. And then iwi, well, if we have an opportunity, like going on to marae and feeling part of something that is iwi based and hapu based, just they really need these experiences, don't they, so that they can connect and lock into those things and think, yes, I understand what pepeha is. I understand about the positioning of my locality. So that's something I really encourage us to do. And now we'll just move on to, we are going to do a marae visit. It was going to be early September in this location. Obviously Taranaki have their own. We've got another date perhaps we're working on, perhaps.
No, I think the date's going to be the same.
Oh, the date is staying.
Oh,
great.
Sorry,
ladies, I had misunderstood. Yep, keep that date. Okay, we'll get back to our lady and keep that date. So, yes, September. Yes, it is, early September. Great. So now we'll talk about that ceremony that Erin was recently part of. So it's a very, very simple ceremony, but it allows 2 groups of people who've never perhaps ever met before to quickly become connected in a semi-formal way. There can be very formal settings, but ours will be a semi-formal one because we're just bringing a small group, and this is our first connection, and we want it to be fairly light, not too deep, not too heavy. So we will experience, as Erin was saying, a karanga. So we bring our little group towards there's always a gateway somewhere. You'll see the whare nui across the way, a beautiful carved whare at Kohupātiki, The name of our whare is Tāne Nuiarangi, and that's the name of the first man, supposedly the ancestor of the human race. It's an old meeting house that was moved across and established on this side of the river where it is now in 1913. So in 2013 we had a centenary. So it's been beautifully kept. It's a beautiful house, a little house, just lovely and quite intimate. So on the porch of that whare, there will be women who are prepared to call us on. So we wait and nothing happens until the first call comes from the home side, from the people of the home side. If they don't call, we wait. We wait and we wait until they're ready. Sometimes you're coming on and there may be a tangi situation and there are groups coming on constantly. So there may be groups already finishing the protocols of that ceremony and you just wait until it's your turn. They'll be aware of you, they'll see you at the gateway and they'll be waiting for an opportunity to call you on. But we'll be coming on a one-off situation. It'll be just about us. So that'll be lovely. And we'll just bring our little ones and just wait. And we'll organise to have someone call from our side in response to the call from the home people. So there'll be a call from there welcoming us on, and we will call back and say, yes, call us, karanga mai, welcome us on. And we, calling to the house, to Tāne Nuiarangi, karanga mai, to call us on, and we'll start to move gently on. And then the people on the home side will call us again. And at some point in this exchange of calls, there will be a remembering of the ones who've passed on, especially recently, the family members that we have lost recently. And so there will be a time of grieving. That's a very important part, acknowledging those who we've recently lost. A time of sharing that between the two groups, because we'll have our own people that we're thinking of and they've got their own people. And then beyond that, we then call again to the living, celebrating the fact that we've had this opportunity to share together. And then the final call comes from the home people, and that is to settle. Whakatau mai. Come and settle, come and be settled. And there'll be a place for us to be seated. And there's still a gap between us and the home people. We haven't yet formalised everything. So we will wait there, and the gentleman will speak from the home people. He will speak first. This is the tradition in this region. Some regions are different, have a different way of going about it. But they will speak first, they call first, and they will speak first. And they will just welcome us. It'll just be a light thing. It'll just be a gentle, we're welcoming you. It's lovely to have you in Te Reo, of course. And just making us feel at home and going through the protocols as is required. And then if we have someone to speak for us, great. If we don't, it's not a problem. I have asked my brother-in-law, but he's not sure if he will be required to speak for home or for us. So there's a flexibility there. If our kaumātua is available that day, Papa Bevan, he will probably speak for the home group, and then Matuapi will be able to speak for us. But if not, that's not a problem. We don't even have to have kaikaranga. As long as we just follow the protocol and gently come on respectfully, that's fine. And then when that part of the process is finished, they will, koha. So we are always part of the protocol is to acknowledge in the old days, it was food and treasures, things that were useful in the hospitality situation. For us these days, it's much easier just to give something, a monetary fund means. And I asked our chairperson, and she said a gold coin each would be lovely. Just a gold coin each to present. And we'll just put that all together, and that's our love offering. It's more a representation of our wish to enter into this process. And we'll just place that gently down in front of the meeting house. And then someone will come from the other side and pick that up, and then they will invite us to come and now become one. So actually come close together. And it used to be always a hongi that was very traditional, and sometimes a kiss, but we have to decide whether that feels appropriate for us. We might decide maybe just the handshake, or we need to do what we feel is safe for our families, and that will be understood. Because of COVID, all has changed. What used to be easy and natural, and we've everything has changed now. But that's okay, that's understandable. And then we become one. And now the next part of the process is we've become tapu, that space that we've just crossed over is a tapu space at the time of Pōwhiri. It's a holy place. And now we have taken that on ourselves. So we go to a place where we can wash. And usually there's some water nearby. So you'll just see people will direct us to where there's a tap or some water, and we'll just sprinkle it. And it's just a ceremonial washing off of the tapu that we've picked up. And then the last part of the process is we eat together, eat and drink together. And food and drink takes away again tapu. It's the opposite. It's noa. Noa is commonplace. So that's the completion of the ceremony. It's showing that we're now one. We eat and drink together. That's that coming together. But also it's taken away the tapu that does come on. Another place you experience that is if you go into a cemetery. There's an urupa, we call it. You've been to a tangi. Again, you take on a form of tapu, that's a very holy place, a graveyard. And as you come out, you'll find there's water somewhere. It might even just be bottles of water at the gate. And again, just a sprinkle. It's a ceremonial thing, but it's just a cleansing, a lifting off of the tapu. Because, it's the correct way. You're going now to do things that are not tapu. You need to differentiate between the two. Tapu and noa is a very important concept, tikanga, in Te Reo and Māori. And just being aware of it. If, sometimes we need reminding. Oh, have you gone and washed? Oh, I forgot. Sorry. Yes, thank you for that. And then go back and find the water. And it's just lovely to show our little ones too. This is part of the process. So we will prepare a booklet to send out again for everyone to familiarise with that. Now, I thought we'd learn a little waiata, a nice simple one. If we do have a gentleman speak on our behalf, it's always lovely to support that kōrero with a waiata. Waiata tautoko means supporting waiata. So I thought this is a lovely simple one that we can teach our little ones. It's an echoing one, and repetition is great for learning te reo and for becoming familiar. So I'm sure you've heard it before. I'll sing the first line and you can copy, and people online, the words are coming. Or you may be able to Google them for yourself. YouTube is a great way of learning waiata. There's fabulous opportunities to learn waiata on YouTube. So our waiata that I've selected is called E Toru Ngā Mea. There are 3 things. Ngā mea nunui, very important things, e ki ana te paipera, as spoken of in the Bible. The first one is whakapono, faith, tūmanako, hope, but the greatest of all, ko te mea nui, ko te aroha. Love is the greatest of all. And that's what we're experiencing on the marae as we come together. We're experiencing the love of the home people as they make themselves available to welcome us. And we share and we respond in kind. So I'm sure you know the melody, but I'll sing the line and please copy me. E toru ngā mea, e toru ngā mea, ngā mea nunui, ngā mea nunui, e ki ana, te paipera, whakapono, tūmanako, ko te mea nui, ko te mea nui, ko te aroha. And that will be very appropriate because Kohupātiki, the whare is not only a meeting house, it's also a church house. And there's a huge history of the Anglican Church in Kohupātiki. The very first bishop to Māori was Augustus Bennett, who obviously wasn't Māori, but he came to live at the marae and was hosted there by the local people. And from him came a series of bishops. And the Bennett family has now knitted firmly into Kohupātiki history, and whakapapa. So a himene is very appropriate as a way of the tautoko in that situation. Now, where should we go next? So we've got our Waiata Tautoko, we've got our marae visit coming up, which is wonderful. Now, I just wanted to recap a little bit about Matariki. Matariki, the beautiful celebration that Erin mentioned about, what a gorgeous idea, gifting someone in Matariki. Matariki is such a fabulous thing. We've missed it a little. We were going to be in Matariki season more when we originally planned, but that's okay. But just to look at how Māori do celebrate their new year and why begin a new year in midwinter, in June or the beginning of winter. And for Māori, that's a very natural thing. Harvest time is complete, the seasonal work, everything's done. It's a time to rest. It's a time to relax. What a perfect time to have a New Year's celebration. I think ours is a bit crazy. Ours is straight after we've had another celebration and we're busy and we're crazy and it's hectic. But to have it in that resting time, that natural seasonal breathing time, breathing out, breathing in, that lovely thing. The natural environment's resting and the people are now able to stop and reflect on what's gone on last year and plan ahead for the year ahead. It's a perfect time to rest and have a new year. And of course, it's marked, and usually mid-July, somewhere around that time, mid-June, sorry. I think this year may have been a little later, with the rising of Matariki. It's a perfect little constellation. It actually is a true collection of stars. It's not stars at different points as we see them, and known as Pleiades to the Greeks, and known as Subaru to the Japanese. The car, if you have a look at the Subaru, there's a constellation. Yeah, it's the Japanese name. So it's known around the world. Matariki. It's very visible, a very beautiful, very tiny, very subtle constellation. But once you've been shown where it is, it's lovely to go out. We've got that fabulous Atia. And when we get the navigators come and show us, how to find it in the early hours of the morning, it's just a beautiful thing. So I just thought, how have we celebrated Matariki this year? There's so many ways. We celebrate through food, obviously. The harvest time has been, we've got all those lovely pumpkins. We can have hangi, we can have pumpkin soups and all sorts of lovely fried bread and boil-ups and all sorts of wonderful things with our children. And of course, the pastimes and games are so much fun. There's beautiful resources online that have been put out, like places like Te Papa, talking about string games and making kites with raupo and the very light feathery plants that we have around toi, to decorate them as they were done traditionally. Stick games and waiata and all that haka, everything is all part of Matariki. And then the stories, there's beautiful books being written about Matariki. And as we've discovered now, there are now 9 stars visible. We always thought there was the 7 sisters, but we've realized there's a lot more to it. It's like the old knowledge is being rediscovered as the years go by. We've sort of had a shallow understanding of Matariki. It's going deeper and deeper as people are recalling or uncovering stories about the history of Matariki and the depth of it. But there are apparently 9 stars that are visible to the naked eye without using other apparatus. And so Pohutakawa and Hiwa Itarangi have been added in to the names that we already knew. So it's quite challenging fitting them in to a waiata, but it's lovely to learn those names as waiata. I think that's the best way to learn them. And then there's a lot of knowledge around what each star represents. And then, of course, there's our beautiful Aotearangi that we're so blessed, our celestial compass that's out at the river mouth. Oh, it's the most fabulous place. Even if you just go alone, there's beautiful written documentation around it. That's enough to understand what the layout is all about. But to go there when the navigators are there and, to go there in the early hours of the morning, around that Matariki celebration time and have them describe it, to you and show you how they work it. And they live it. They actually live and breathe the compass. They carve it into the waka. It's actually carved into the deck of the waka. So all the compass points are in there, very, very tiny markings. So when they stand on the waka deck, they actually use the waka as a compass. It's fabulous that you see that when you actually go on board. Oh, it's just so amazing. It's very exciting that we're part of this culture now that's been rediscovered They talk about the one man, the one navigator, Papa Mo, they called him, who still had all that knowledge, and it would have died with him. But people realized, and they went to him and said, Papa Mo, would you please share it with us? And he agreed to do that. And from that one man, that knowledge has gone out to the nations. And it's just the young people are so excited to have that opportunity to go and explore the oceans as the ancestors did, using very limited amount of technology, just the ancient technology. So we're in Hawke's Bay and Heretaunga are very blessed with our opportunities to explore Matariki and celebrate the festivals. And I'm sure Taranaki has opportunities too. Fabulous things happening. Now let's get to our bicultural curriculum. So I'm hoping this is not too heavy. How are we going for time, ladies? I don't have a clock.
We're 20 to 8.
Okay.
Another
20-ish minutes. Okay. So I just thought, technically, where does our bicultural curriculum come from? Well, of course, it began with Te Whāriki, with the creation of this amazing document that was world-breaking. It was the first time really in world of ECE that there'd been a document, a national document created between two partners in the treaty, in a treaty settlement, with Tamati and Tili Reedy and their people bringing that beautiful image of a whāriki woven, the flax fibres woven in together. Just such a beautiful, it's still relevant. That was 96, so we're almost 25 years in, and that document is as relevant as ever and is alive and living. And of course, that's our foundation, and what a beautiful foundation that is. And they talk about the principles. So whakamana is the empowerment of the child to be all that they're called to be, whakamana. The next principle is kotahitanga, the holistic development. So to Te Reo Māori, they talk about the whare tapawha, the 4 pillars of a house. So there's the taha tinana, the physical, of course, the taha hinengaro, the intellectual, te taha wairua is the spiritual aspect, and then te taha whānau. So when all those pillars in your house are healthy and balanced, you are a well person. But you need all of that in place. If one of those pillars is weak, you will struggle. You're going to need support. So that's kotahitanga. So bringing all of that into play is what that's all about. And then family and community, of course, whānau tangata. Māori operate as a community. They are not an individualized people. They have a different worldview from European worldview. Our Western Greek mindset is the individual first, and the individual has to find their own resources and move forward. The Māori worldview is totally different, very communal. The idea that we move together as a people. We don't leave anyone behind. We move as quickly as the slowest person. So if it takes a long time to bring change, when there were decisions to be made, they would wānanga, they would come together and talk for days and days until a consensus came about. That's a lot of time. And people say, we don't have time for that anymore. But that's a traditional way of finding everybody gets a turn to talk. Nobody is left out of that conversation. And we just talk and listen and talk and listen and talk and listen until finally we come to an agreement, consensus decision-making. I've heard people say marae meetings are just so long-winded, but they're based on that assumption that everyone must have a say. We cannot make a decision until everyone is participating. So there we go. Very important, whānau tangata. And of course, relationships. And that's, relationships between our peoples and with many other mixes now. I have Samoan grandchildren in the mix now, with my Dutchness and my Welshness and my Irishness and my, and all of that mixed in. Isn't that beautiful? That our children now are very global, in their ancestry as well, in reality, in their bloodlines. They've got amazing relationships. They network in different ways, than we ever did. And so relationships have taken on a whole new meaning, but still those close ties that the children that you have caring for in your homes, those beautiful bonds that you form with them as caregivers and educators, they are forever bonds. We hold them all these little ones that we've looked after over many, many years. They're all still there in our hearts. And when we see them growing up and becoming wonderful young people, we rejoice in that, those beautiful relationships. So that's the basis of Te Whāriki. And then after Te Whāriki came Te Whatu Pōkeka. There was a need for us to assess Māori learners as Māori through a Māori lens. And Te Whatu Pōkeka talks about a beautiful cloak that was created. Whatu is a way of weaving, a baby's cloak, beautiful cloak that you would put around a baby, specially made for baby, very soft. And it talks about the different exemplars. So they talk about children bring with them a knowledge, a prior knowledge, mohiotanga. So that's something that they've inherited through their ancestry. Then there's the time of growth when they're learning new ideas. We expose them to new things that they may never have tried before. That's a time of mātauranga, so they're learning. Mātau is to learn. And then you get those aha moments. Aren't they beautiful when you see a little one and they've just suddenly discovered something for themselves? They've suddenly grasped something, or they've learned to ride the bike, or something. They've got up and climbed something high. And that's maramatanga, and that's enlightenment. When they really own something, it becomes part of who they are. It's a part of their process of growing and increasing in knowledge. So that's Te Whatu Pōkeka, looking at children in those and through that process. But there are beautiful words in that document that we would examine another time, describing all the attributes, the learning dispositions. They're all set out there in Te Whatu Pōkeka. So, I can write a learning story about a child and I can refer to aspects of their learning in Te Whatu Pōkeka, to create that bicultural flow from one to the other, seeing it from that side as well as the European side of things. Then another document that came out after Te Whatu Pōkeka was Te Kaiako. And what have I done with that? Somewhere here. Anyway, Te Kaiako there was Kahikatea came out first time in 2008, and that came out of a concern that our European style education system does not suit children of an Eastern mindset, an Eastern worldview, which is what Māori is, the communal worldview. And that we often don't acknowledge learning and knowledge that comes out of a cultural experience. It was not necessarily recognised or valued in our system. So Kahikatea started to address that, and there's been 3 different levels of Kahikatea, 3 phases of it. So 2008, that was a 5-year plan to 2012. Then 2013, there was an upgrade of that again, and then there's been another one in 2018. There's been another recent. There's been just 3 very recently.
2 weeks ago, they released the update.
Yeah, and so from Kahikatea came a Tātaiako. Now that was about us assessing ourselves. The Te Whatu Pōkeka is us, how we assess the children's learning, but Tātaiako was looking at our own assessment and how we are growing and learning as educators. And I had a document here somewhere, here we go. So ako is an amazing concept. Ako is learning and teaching. So it's that beautiful exchange with children where they know some things about something and you know some things about something, and you start to co-construct that knowledge. And it's a beautiful thing, when the children, or you feed off something that they are wondering about, and it draws you into their world of learning. And it's a beautiful thing, ako. Wānanga, again, communication, problem solving, innovation. That's another aspect. How are we without the way we communicate with our little ones? We allow them to problem solve, or we enter into that problem solving situation. Whanaungatanga, again, building those relationships with the children and their whānau and the wider community that they're part of. And manaakitanga, values of integrity, trust, sincerity and equity. That's all part of manaakitanga. We've got manaakima, we just used it here generically as bless us, but it's a beautiful concept of embracing people and nurturing them. But it also talks about who we are as educators, that we are we have integrity, that we are trustworthy, that the children can trust us and feel safe in our presence. And then tangata whenuatanga. So this is the place-based sociocultural environment that we're talking about here, where we acknowledge where children have come from, that we're aware of where we are now and where they've come from and how that all flows in together and enriches us as a collective of people. Tangata whenua. So tangata whenua just means the people of this land where we are. So when we go to the marae, tangata whenua are the people of that marae. And they're inviting us to be embraced into their world. So tangata whenua belong in everywhere we go. And so that's our place space. And then from after that was 2011, and then our code and our standards document has been revamped. And they have different, I've tipped it all upside down. Here we go. Te Tiriti or Waitangi partnership. So we are to demonstrate our commitment to tangata whenuatanga. So that's the place-based, being aware of place-based learning, and Te Tiriti or Waitangi partnership in Aotearoa. And the words they use, I'll just read them out there in the document that you will receive. To understand and recognise the unique status of tangata whenua in New Zealand, Māori belong only here. If we lose Te Reo and we stop practising tikanga, if we no longer use the marae, there will be nowhere else in the world that we will ever recreate this. It will be gone forever. It's very precious. And understand and acknowledge the histories, heritages, language and cultures of partners to Tiriti. So I hear the young people's heart, my daughters and their peers, when they're looking at their situations of feeling conflicted between different worldviews and thinking, but I belong to both. My ancestry is both European and Māori. How do I walk this line? Do I walk through the middle? Do I sometimes prefer one worldview over another? It's quite a difficult place for our young people to be. But they are the ones that resolve, they're working it out for themselves, and they will eventually lead us on into the future. But very interesting that, they have to acknowledge both histories, and they're part of both. And practice and develop the use of Te Reo, of course, and Tikanga Māori, just so the children are hearing it and are familiar, even if you just have tapes playing, beautiful waiata tapes in the background. It's a beautiful environment to bring the language. And every now and again, you'll hear them. They'll pick up on something and they'll start to echo it. Or you might decide, there's a particular waiata there that the children love. Let's learn that one. Let's focus on that one for a time and find out what that's all about. I used to listen to a lot of Hirani Melbourne back in the day when I was learning Te Reo in Kohanga Reo. And it was all a bit too fast for me at first. I could read it and understand it, but to hear it spoken around me, I couldn't quite keep up. So Hirani made a lot of beautiful waiata. He wrote them specifically, the sounds of the insects, the sounds of the birds, songs about the oceans and the forests, and it was all a play on words. It was like Dr. Seuss. It was a play on words to familiarize your ear to the sound of the language. And I just found that really helpful. I just immersed myself at home in that kind of thing, just to get my ears attuned to the sound of, and then it came eventually. It just takes time and patience. We have to be patient with ourselves. But little ones pick it up much quicker. So that's a wonderful thing to use Te Reo in that way. Singing it is just often easier. It helps with our pronunciation. It helps with our confidence to use waiata. And there are so many beautiful waiata out there. So, ladies, I think that's enough for now. Is that okay? How are we going time-wise?
Have you guys got any questions?
Oh, yes, that would be great. Yes. Where to from here? I mean, there's lots of avenues we could look at where there's all sorts of aspects of this.
And I think the big thing is this is a starting point.
Yeah, I
starting to go on that journey.
Sure.
And I know that there'll be a lot of educators who are thinking, they want to embrace particularly the use of Te Reo and Māori in homes with the children, and like you've covered beautifully the concepts of Te Reo Māori and Tikanga and how they apply, I suppose, in our day-to-day practices. And they'll just be thinking, where do I start?
Yes,
yeah,
that's right. And it's to just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we just get overwhelmed and it's too hard and then we don't
Yeah.
do anything. So
Yeah.
it's to think, okay, maybe we'll learn one waiata and we'll practice that waiata until we're confident in that. But we'll select one that's relevant to the children, what the children are learning. Maybe they're interested. It's winter time. I'm just trying to think. Maybe soon the butterfly. I was just thinking. Pūrere hua. There's beautiful ones. And again, just YouTube them, and put them up if you've got a screen at home, if you can get them up on a screen and just watch them and just put them on repeat and just keep working with that. And just, look at the language in that and play around with the words and find books that maybe support that language and just use it maybe as a focus for a period of time. There's some beautiful waiata out there. Just beautiful, simple ones that are being written for children. One I love to start every day with the little ones on the mat is just tēnā koe, kai te pehe a koe, kei te pai, kei te pai aho. And I think that one comes out of Waiata Pipi, a very old book. And it's just such a simple thing, just learning that basic greeting. Tēnā koe, and then the response, kei te pai. And then we start to evolve it a little. Tēnā koe so-and-so, how are you feeling today? Kei te pehe koe. And they might say, oh, I'm tired. And you say, oh, kai te hia moe, or kai te ngenge. Find a word that describes that and start to expand your vocabulary. But just use the basic waiata and just add in. Allow the children to contribute. Someone's angry, I'm angry. Kai te pukuriri, or I'm hungry. Kai te hia kai, I'm thirsty. Kai te, just find the words. Go find them and say, okay, we'll find the word for that, and then we'll add that into our waiata, and we'll just keep expanding it and just play around with simple waiata. Repetition is the key. Repetition is just to give us confidence, and for the children just to become really familiar, so that wherever they go, especially as they move on in life, they think, I know the sound of this language. This language is familiar to me. And I had lots of fun with that language. It's been a really positive experience for me. Everywhere I've experienced Te Reo Māori, it's been great. And I want to learn more, to create a hunger and a desire for the children to know more. So we have to get a little bit excited. We kind of inspire that excitement in our children, in our tamariki. But you just start with something really simple, whether it's just greeting the families. And so the first week you might say, okay, kia ora. That's a beautiful blessing. Ora is to do with health and well-being. And to say kia ora to someone is to bless them with health. And may you be healthy and well. It's the most beautiful thing. It's not just a simple greeting. It's actually a blessing. Kia ora, that you may be well, that it may go well with you. Kia ora. It's a beautiful thing. And then next time you might think, well, this time I'll say, tēnā koe. That is you. It's an acknowledgement. It's a more formal way of greeting someone. Tēnā koe, that is you there. And or tēnā korua, or tēnā koutou. So just expanding, just one step at a time, just little steps until you feel comfortable. And then, okay, maybe I could say good morning. And as families come in, and then some people might say morena or ata marae. Ata is the word for morning, and marae is peaceful morning. Ata marae. Just one thing at a time. Just take it easy. Enjoy it. The main thing is enjoy it. It's the most beautiful language, the most melodic and harmonious languages, and it's phonic. It's a phonic language. It's simple. It's not like English with 1,000 exceptions to every rule, every grammatical rule. It's very simple. The Māori dictionary is very tiny. Words have multiple meanings in context. It's a wonderful language. It's not meant to be complicated at all. It should be easier for children to learn Te Reo first and English later. To me, it's a far simpler language. So just enjoy. The main thing is have fun. It's got to be fun or you won't do it. It's like exercise. It's got to be fun or you won't do it. You'll find every excuse not to do it. Okay, sorry, long answer to a short question.
No, that was perfect.
When you met with Tracy and you talked a little bit about the marae visit, because I'm not sure. So Taranaki will be there and we'll be there as well. And you talked about, as best we can, to keep the children behind the person. I thought that might be a really good thing to bring up.
Thank you. I didn't bring that up. Yes.
For the educators to support the children as best they can to stay behind that person.
Certainly. So when I talked about the marae, so the marae atia is in fact the piece of ground that is in front of the meeting house. And we start at one edge, we come across it slowly, and then eventually we join together. So that area for that period of time is quite sacred, quite holy. And I did mention to Tracy and Wendy, that there are times when I've seen the speakers become a little annoyed if children start to run across that area while the pōwhiri process is underway. For that period of time, it's quite important to just keep them, close to us. If they need to get up and run, just to take them quietly away and let them run off to the side, out the back somewhere, but just not let. I have seen that it can be unsettling, especially as speakers trying to concentrate on what he said, but it's just the fact that it's a very tapu area, and for that short period of time, it's just to really respect that sacredness of the moment. And then once that's over and we've greeted, we've had our hariru, which is our greeting together, then that's fine. The children can then play. It's no longer tapu. The tapu becomes removed, and it's a safe place for them to play. So thank you for reminding me about that, Wendy. Yeah, that is important. That just for that little short period of time, it's difficult sometimes for our little ones. They don't understand, but we just have to just remind them, no, we're going to stay here. We're just going to sit quietly here, and it'll be over soon. Be patient, it'll be over soon. And then gradually, as they get older, they grow into it and they understand more and more. Yeah, great question. Thank you, Wendy. Yeah. So.
Thank you, Maria. What a start.
Okay. Well, we've got one more thing to do. Now we finished with a karakia, and it also can be sung. So this is one you may have heard many times at ceremonies around the place. He honore, he kororia, maunga rongo ki te whenua. And that means all honor and glory to God, peace on earth, whakaro pai e ki ngā tangata katoa, goodwill to all mankind, and ake, amen. And you may recognize that was actually the blessing that was given by the angels at Christmas. They sang that, didn't they? Over the earth. Sorry, I'm moving the wrong way, ladies. They sang that, the heavenly host came and sang that goodwill, peace on earth, goodwill to all mankind. So this is a very popular hymn that we often sing when we have karakia and in many situations. So I'll just lead that and you follow as best you can. He honore, he kororia, maunga rongo ki te whenua. Whakaro pai e ki ngā tangata katoa. Ake. Amen. Thank you. I bless you all with those wonderful things, with peace and goodwill. May we all enjoy our wonderful learning journeys together.
I just have a question that's just come in.
Yes, Wendy. Oh, great. Someone sent a question. Oh, fabulous. Fabulous.
Could you please ask if women will need to wear black skirts onto the marae?
Thank you. Very good question.
That's a good question.
That's a very, and I forgot to say that. I'm sorry, ladies. Never talked about dress code. So it doesn't have to be a black skirt, but it is respectful to wear a skirt of some sort, or a tunic, even a tunic top, even mine is just above the knee, but just some form of feminine attire is quite nice. Doesn't have to be black, definitely not. In a tangi situation perhaps, or a very formal situation, you would be required to wear your blacks, your number ones, your blacks. But not for this. This is a much more simple ceremony that we're going through. But yes, it would be lovely. I've seen women who forgot and they've come and they've just wrapped a love or something around, just something to, just respectful, a more modest form of dress. Thank you for that question. Great question. Thank you.
And if there are any more questions that come from
yes,
people will be watching this over the next couple of weeks.
Sure. Yes.
We can just feed those through to you, can't we?
Yes, certainly. Yep. Great.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful people. It's been lovely. I love this. It's my passion. It's my heart to share what little I know and to try and encourage others to come on this journey with me. Yeah. Awesome. Fabulous.
Let's go.
Thank you, people.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Tēnā koutou katoa.
Awesome.
Kia ora.
It's lovely learning about how beautiful it all is. Isn't it? All the beauty that's
Mm.